What if a stack of kind of boring spreadsheets could actually tell a story? I'm not just talking about numbers, but a real story about community, about compassion, and about just a ton of love. So today, we're going to dig into some internal reports from a local animal shelter to see if we can find that hidden story.
So what does it look like? Well, it looks like this: spreadsheets, sign-in sheets, and weekly updates. Because that's where you find the real evidence. All those small, meaningful actions that add up to something huge. We're going to trace how thousands of volunteer hours go from being just data points into wagging tails and happy homes.
Okay, so before we dive right into the numbers, we really have to get the why behind it all. What's the whole point of a volunteer program at a super busy adoption center? It's not just about getting some free help. It's actually a really strategic part of the shelter's mission.
And that mission, it kind of breaks down into 4 main goals. First, and most obvious, is animal welfare. This is all the hands-on care and playtime that makes the animals happier and, well, more adoptable. Second, you've got outreach. This lets the shelter have a presence out in the community without having to stretch its staff budget. Third, volunteers help with crucial operational support. Think of all those special projects that might not get done otherwise. And finally, and this one's huge, it's about community engagement, building those connections that ultimately lead to more adoptions.
So let's rewind to the beginning of the year, around late February. The program was really just finding its feet. This was the building phase, a time for setting up how things work and just getting the word out. In those early days, recruitment was a total grassroots effort. The reports show it was all word of mouth and social media. And this actually led to some early challenges, like trying to track the volunteer hours from a big group of college athletes who had their own service requirements to meet. And here, this is a perfect example of what it's really like to collect data. This one line from a report in May explains this sudden huge jump in the numbers. See, it wasn't some explosion of new people signing up. Nope. It was just one email that finally brought a whole batch of previously untracked hours into the system. It's a great little reminder that behind every neat and tidy number, there's always a bit of messy reality.
So to bring a little order to all that chaos, the shelter set up a really clear and simple process. First, you fill out an application. Then you go to a new volunteer orientation to learn the ropes. And after that, you're all set for your first shift. This simple structure gave everyone in the community a clear path to getting involved.
And check this out. By the end of June, all that effort was already paying off. The community had pitched in almost 740 hours of their time. That's a fantastic start for a program that was really only a few months old. Now, as we get into the summer months, the story kind of shifts. It goes from just getting started to being really consistent. The program had a solid group of volunteers, a clear process, and it really hit its stride, just focusing on that important day-to-day work of taking care of the animals. And what's so revealing is where all that time went. A massive 84%. Just look at that slice, was spent on direct animal care and enrichment. So what this tells you is that this wasn't just some program for pushing paper. It was overwhelmingly about hands-on help for the animals.
So what does that 84% actually mean in the real world? Well, the reports list all kinds of things. It's the essential stuff, like walking dogs and cuddling with cats. It's creative things, like making enrichment toys to keep the animals from getting bored. It's even specialized skills, like a volunteer doing professional photography to get amazing adoption photos, or grooming to help the animals look and feel their absolute best.
And sometimes, the work gets incredibly specific and personal. I found this little note in an August report. Someone's special project for the week was writing a better adoption profile for a dog named Buster. It's just this beautiful human detail that shows how every single little creative act adds up to that bigger mission.
So by the end of August, the grand total had more than doubled, hitting over 1,700 hours. This steady, consistent work through the summer really became the backbone for the entire year's success. All right, moving into the fall. Now the shelter takes that strong foundation and decides to make a bit of a pivot. Autumn was going to be the season for a major push to get more animals into loving homes. And that big push got a name: Adoption Autumn. This was more than just a catchy phrase, though. It was a really focused campaign that got all the volunteers rallied around a single goal and shifted the program's focus to more public-facing events and activities. And here's another note that shows that volunteering isn't just about poop scooping. Right here, a volunteer put their professional graphic design skills to work on the campaign poster. It's just a perfect example of how a community's special talents can be put to amazing use. And you can really see the impact of that campaign right here in the numbers. Okay, so through all of spring and summer, volunteers put in 63 hours on outreach.
But during adoption autumn alone, 214 hours. I mean, you can see the strategic shift laid out right there in the data. It's crystal clear.
I have to say, I love this quote from an October report. It's this funny, self-aware note from the person actually putting the data together, trying to make sense of a really complicated week. It's just a perfect reminder that behind all these official reports are real people doing their best to manage what is a wonderfully complex program. So that autumn push led to this massive acceleration of effort. By late November, the total number of hours had just soared to nearly 3,000. The focus and the energy of that campaign paid off in a huge way, no question about it. So, after following the program's journey through the seasons, let's just pull back for a second and look at the final numbers, what this community really accomplished in just 9 months.
The final tally is 2,915 hours. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's like one person working a full-time job for over a year and a half. Just an incredible gift of time from this community.
And all those hours came from 225 different people, a really broad group of community members who decided to step up and help, whether it was just for one day or for a regular weekly shift.
And the program is showing no signs of slowing down. With 119 new applications coming in during this time, that pipeline of future help is super strong. It really promises continued growth and care for all the animals.
So in the end, you see, data isn't just cold, hard facts. It's a story. And we've seen how these numbers tell a story of growth, of strategy, and just immense compassion. So maybe the next time you think about supporting a local organization, ask about their numbers. You know, what story are they telling?